Jim Purvis, great to have you over here at Paul.
Thanks very much for having me, Simon.
You enjoyed the game? A wee bit you saw?
Very much, yes.
How did you get on yesterday? I need to
I
ask you
thought
how
you might ask that, yes.
Gifford got on yesterday.
Gifford, for whom I was playing, did very, very well. And Pollock United were ahead 1-0, then it was 1 each, 2-1, 2 each, 3-2, 3 each.
Right.
We were settling for the draw, Simon.
Oh, that's your mistake then.
Possibly.
We never settle for a draw.
When the klaxon went
to end
for
the game.
full time, and there's some controversy about whether the ball was over the line before the klaxon had finished.
Right.
However, Pollock ran out.
And what was the referee's decision?
You won.
Oh, great.
But I don't know how much money had changed hands beforehand.
The referee's decision's always
it was an excellent
That's all
game,
that
and the guys I've met today, all who were there, all said they had a great time as well.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It's a different level. And 40 minutes, 20-minute games for 4 games. That's a lot of football, back to back, like that, definitely. Isn't it? There was a lot of guys feeling the pace today, because we don't train like that. We don't train for anything. How did you get involved in the walking football, Jim? How did that come about?
I have a good relationship with the Community Trust of Motherwell. And I, both for my own benefit, I'm playing 5s and 7s on another night. I was pushing 60 at the time, and I thought, maybe I better take it a wee bit easier.
Right.
Not that it has to be said that walking football is necessary.
You were pushing 60?
Yeah, when I started it 3 or 4 years ago, the walking football, I was pushing 60. I've now pushed past that.
Right.
However, I also identified that perhaps guys who were going to the walking football in Motherwell, where we have a group, might be interested in volunteering, if not joining in our groups.
Right.
So there was a wee bit of a dual purpose to it. It was partly self-interest and partly for my own enjoyment.
So these groups, we're now talking about who you work for.
Yeah.
Tell us a wee bit about that then, because I think it's fascinating, Jim.
Sporting Memories Foundation Scotland is part of a Britain-wide organisation, charity. In Scotland we have about 40 groups in normal times.
Wow.
Right across mainly the Central Belt, but and they meet in community hubs, they meet in community centres, they meet in football clubs.
Yes.
Bowling clubs, golf clubs, and also, and this is one of my regrets at the moment, is that we've got a number of groups in sheltered housing complexes and in care homes, which are just off limits altogether.
Can't get into them just now.
Irrespective of the relaxation.
The pandemic's affected life all the way through, hasn't it? It runs right through every sphere of life.
Yeah. So we're across the country. The organisation is going to be 10 years old in October.
Okay. Wow.
And we've got a few quite interesting things planned for that. But started with a couple of guys, one with a mental health nursing background, and another man who had no real background in that at all, but had a father who had lived with, the expression we usually is lived with rather than suffered from.
Okay.
Although a lot of carers tell me that they do suffer.
Yeah.
So
but not everyone.
Oh no. These two guys get their heads together and realise that men, and it's not a sexist remark to say that men were not as good joiners of groups as women were.
Yeah.
So women would be inclined to go to coffee mornings and bingo sessions and so on and so forth.
They tend to have their own social groups, don't they? Like my partner has the train ladies, they call it. They all travel to work together for years on the train, and still 20 years later they all go out for lunch once a month or whatever.
Yeah. So their idea was that to get men involved, there needed to be a kind of incentive, if you like. And talking about sport was thought to be, one of the co-founders said that the only time his father's eyes lit up was if he talked to him about old football matches and so on, and clicked with that. So the groups depend to a degree on sport, but they're to a degree also a pretext for getting men to
just
come
to get them together.
Yeah. I mean, the conversation and the quiz topics and so on are usually sport related, but my take on it always has been, my kind of mentor in the in working, and I originally volunteered,
Yeah.
and then an opportunity to do a job, a paid job came up. But my mentor's idea always was that if the conversation happened to go down a non-sporting route,
Who cares?
if we were talking about Spitfires, or we're talking about ships, or whatever, railway engines, then so be it. Let it go. Don't be, stuck with a fixed agenda.
Yeah.
And if the hour and a half went past and everyone was enjoying talking about this subject, so it's only in that sense could it be said to be a pretext. Although most of our, in fact, all of our partnerships and so on are with other bodies who are interested in sport.
Yeah, like walking football. Like
correct. Yeah.
There's a real meeting of minds there, isn't there, with the walking football?
Yeah.
You're interesting because everybody watching this will have a story that relates to what you're talking about. And mine comes to mind was my father. He died 20 years ago of cancer, but he had dementia, which came on quite quickly towards the end. But when I took the kids to see him the week before he died, he couldn't have told you. I think he thought I was his brother, and I don't know. I can't remember who he thought my kids were.
Yeah.
But he didn't really understand who we all were. Although there was recognition in the air, but not in what he was saying. But my son said to him, "Is it true you were in Lisbon in 1967, Grandad?" And he named a team like that. So sporting things mean things to people. It's like music. People do similar things with music because it triggers parts of the brain that are reserved for that.
They say, I wouldn't want to decry sporting memories, but they say music is the most.
Right. Sometimes they go hand in hand.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's an element.
The theme tune for our programme that we're making just now is from Firhill, when I was a wee boy of 4, whistling whatever his name is. Was the guy that did the tune.
Oh yeah.
And I still remember it from then. It immediately triggers memories of my grandfather and all the rest.
I think a lot of people would find it difficult to. You've maybe heard the shipping forecast being described as poetry.
Yes.
Have you?
Yes.
It performs a function as important information for seagoing people. But a lot of people listen to it at 12:30 at night as a means of sending them over to sleep because there's a lyricism to it.
It's like the old test card, or
there is with football teams. In the days when you had pretty much a fixed 11.
Yes. Numbered 1 to 11.
Numbered 1 to 11. And there was Smith, Jones, and Mackay.
Yeah.
Pause. And then your half-back line.
Yeah. And the front 5, the famous 5, people can rhyme them off, the same as they can rhyme off the Lions or the famous Caldwells and all that. You know,
absolutely. And even in your front 5 as it was then.
Do you know the Jags team that won the League Cup in 1971?
No, tell us.
I want you to retain some viewers here.
So that's what we do in a nutshell, if you like.
And because of lockdown, so during lockdown, like it's affected everyone. You've kept that going through Zoom or through over the internet.
Can I introduce this? Really tragic for our members, as we call them. The fact that what were we going to do when we couldn't go weekly to the meeting place? Quite quickly, and I'm not usually one for blowing my own trumpet or blowing our own trumpet, but quite quickly adopted Zoom. However, the huge drawback of that is the constituency that we are talking about, elderly men, elderly families. So we reached a number of people who we formerly hadn't reached because they were
geography.
And geography indeed. But the numbers were relatively limited. We also set up telephone circles through an app that meant that you could have 8 or 10 people
on one call,
which was quite difficult. Zoom was actually is easier for our people because they can at least see and get your cue to when you speak. Imagine 8 people who are not used to being on a conference call, but nonetheless it was a means of keeping in touch. Keeping in touch. The kit bag, keeping in touch bag, but also kit bag in as much as it's what you would carry your stuff
to the football.
Right, do you want to get a wee shot of a resistance band? Shows you do your stuff. A resistance band so that we could do exercise, low level exercise at home. And there's a beach ball forms part of that. I didn't bring that, and your stress ball.
Of course.
Which you might need.
I need that all the time. Because of these interviews with guys like you.
So, we're quite innovative. We have also a newspaper, the Sporting Pink, which you'll remember the days of queuing up at Queen Street or Central, waiting for the evening, the Pink Times to come out.
Or the Express, wasn't it?
The Citizen, the green Citizen. Now,
and they were out half an hour after the final whistle blew, weren't they? They were absolutely astonished.
I'm hoping to have a guy on who worked in Nottingham. They had similar such newspapers in every city, big city in the country.
Right. All right. Okay.
I had assumed that it was an Edinburgh Glasgow thing.
So did I. Yeah.
So we've got a guy coming to speak to us at one point to tell us the process between about 1:30, well, for the whole afternoon. Some reports being already typeset.
They just filled in the score.
But getting the final scores and getting them to...
Because you always had quite good detail for the first half.
Yes.
Then it started to get a bit diluted, and then the last 10 minutes were summed up with maybe a comment.
Oh no, even if you got
Steam scored in the last minute or whatever. Yeah, if you got that.
Put that online now.
Right.
Because there weren't the opportunities to distribute them in the same way.
I like the old spot the ball. I miss the old spot
the ball.
I like the way you give us a clue where it is as well. That's good.
That's the answer.
I like
Another
that.
part of that has the one without the and a quiz and a word search and a story about Jerry Barber putting masterclass 1961 in this one.
Right.
So all these resources go to make it up, and it also keeps people involved. So
even that on its own would stimulate a lot of conversation. It's something that's mentioned at Walking Football quite a lot. Is the surfaces we played on, the conditions that we played in.
Yes.
You wouldn't be allowed to play in there. The equipment that we had, the boots, if you had boots. A lot of lads never had boots back in the day. The black ash and red ash, and some people say to me, I can't believe at our age, in their 60s, 70s and 80s, if we're seen today, that we're back playing on a decent surface. We've got all these facilities around us. Stuff that we never had as boys.
Did you ever play it?
The old bladder. I've never seen one stitched properly though. There was always a big tongue hanging out, wasn't there? They got you in the head.
Glen Connor Park.
No, I don't think
Black ash in the garden. And the good and the bad. The good and the bad. You know what the good and the bad is?
No.
Gad. Black ash. Big chunks of...
Oh yeah, I've still got it in my knees, I'm sure I've still got it.
Chunks of lumps of...
Yeah, it's like coal,
where it came from.
Yeah.
So that's a great...
Springburn Park was where I played as a boy, and that was black ash. And you came in, you were black to there, and your knees were all bleeding, but that was just taking us part of the course. Jim, we're a wee bit limited in time. I think we need to do something special in future about what you're doing. I see all the materials you've got there, big Caesar there. Because there's so much to explore here, and it's so valuable, especially to the demographic that we're dealing with Walking Football. And here at the Community Hub, we've got an opportunity to make this available to the local community in Pollock, Cardonald and round. It's a big catchment area. So what I'd like to speak to you about in the future is getting together some volunteers round in here that maybe once a week or once a fortnight, whatever they decide that they can do, we could put a wee session on for you of sporting memories for Sporting Memories Scotland. And if you would come along and train those lads and tell us, I don't mean train, I mean tell us what the ethos is and how...
Give you an idea of what it's about. There is proper training, if you like, but I would like to come and do a dummy run and basically let you see what...
Okay, because I'd like to open that up to the boys that are playing Walking Football, because one thing that comes through with the Walking Football is they've all got this inclusiveness. They all feel as though they want to get people involved because they've seen the value of it.
Oh yeah. But and that's similarly, I've got to say with Sporting Memories, and I could talk all night to you. Yeah, I know you know that, but let me finish the sentence. I could talk all night about how good it is. You actually have to see it in action, see the reactions in guys' faces and so on, to really get it. That's the thing, you've got to see it in action.
It's a bit like Walking Football.
Yes, absolutely. Because people have said to me, Walking Football, but all the old duffery. No, it's a different story altogether.
So we'll have you back, Jim. We'll get some training done, and in the meantime, maybe Giffnaclough have won a game the next time I see you.
We'll beat you next time. Thanks very much for inviting me.